Hello, guys. Welcome back to another installment. Professor Charles is live, and today we're gonna talk about something that I wanted to talk about. Man, I haven't even talked about this with anyone. Um, when it comes to top six cartoons, yes, sir. You already know. Growing up and watching stuff. We all had our favorite shows. Some people's show may have been Rugrats. Some people's show may have been X-Men. Whatever show it is. I'm interested in hearing y'all choices too about what was your favorite cartoons growing up. And they ain't got to be in the same era either. You know what I'm saying? It could be when you was in high school. I know for me, Avatar: Last Airbender is one of them that's on my list. I'm letting y'all know that right now. That show was one of those cartoons. You know what I'm saying? So let's get this party started, and don't forget to like and comment as well on this video, guys. So today I'm going to give you my list of my top, and this time around I'm going to start from the top. So the first one on the actual list is something that I've always was just loved about the show. I like the voice actors for the show. I really thought that the show stood out. It was the blueprint for superhero TV shows. It wasn't as campy as that crappy, cheesy 80s Super Friends crap. Oh my god, I hate that mess. I like some cheesy stuff, but some stuff is beyond me. Let's get right to it. The Batman animated series. Yes, sir. Batman animated series was definitely one of my favorite shows. So yours is Stash Shot, Yu-Gi-Oh! Batman, just the X-Men. Hey man, good choices. I can't lie, those are some good choices. The reason I say Batman is my number one, I think Batman, the show, it felt like a TV series. It felt like I was watching like different movies instead of episodes. But you all knew it was episodes that kind of connected to it. But I think the show had really Kevin Conroy stood out on the show. Mark Hamill played the Joker so well. Originally, the guy from Richie Rich, I can't think of the butler's name. That played he was the original Joker until they got rid of him like the first episode. He only did the Christmas episode. But this show was realistic. You felt sorry for the villains. You could see Batman empathize with them. I thought the stories were really good. You know what I'm saying? The character development stories and just the stories with the villains overall. They had be continued episodes. Just the show was such a beautiful thing, man. When I seen that show, I'm like, yo, and I love that it had like this mafia, neo gothic type of thing going on with it. I was like, this is really dope. Batman is a classic. Yes, 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 Batman. That's what I said, man. Kids nowadays, they don't know nothing about the original Batman animated series unless their parents or relatives know about it. Because kids like, oh yeah, I seen that 3D one. It was all right. It wasn't like the original. You know what I'm saying? So that's the OG. That's the first one on the list. I think also, just to show overall, we saw different sides of Bruce. We saw Bruce Wayne's friends, different enemies. Did I have favorite episodes from that actual show? Of course. I think my some of my favorite episodes is the one when we learned about how the Riddler became the way he was. Mr. Freeze, because originally Mr. Freeze didn't have an origin story that was really interesting, and with them having Nora kind of being the reason why he did the things he did, I like that too. I like Riddler because you kind of understood his story. His idea wasn't patent. Someone stole his idea and they made a fortune out of it. And you can understand him being frustrated when someone steals your idea and makes millions of dollars off of it. I would be mad too, wouldn't you? But there are other episodes too. Even the episodes that weren't that great. With Farmer John, I like Farmer John episode, believe it or not. And when Joker owed RS, that was hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, those they have other episodes too that caught my attention too. But I think Batman solidified it for DC when it came to the Superman. After that came the Superman animated series, Justice League animated series, then Batman Beyond, Static Shock. So that kind of set the record for DC to have more animated shows to come out. Even Zeta, which it wasn't the best series ever, but it worked for a short amount of time. I think it only lasted 2 seasons, 3 seasons, but that's just the plain truth. So that's my number one on the list. You already know. Number two on the list, I am going to have to say, and I know y'all gonna be like, dang, DC again. Yes, sir. Justice League. Justice League was a really good show. I love that they found someone else to play Superman in that show. It wasn't the original voice actor from the animated series, but I liked the show. The show had interesting storylines, plot, character development. You know what I'm saying? They had episodes where we see Lex Luthor fuse with Brainiac. That was crazy. And then the episode when Brainiac and Darkseid was working together, I said, "What? Those two villains working together?" I was like, "Wow!" And then I think my favorite episode is the one where Lex Luthor, no, when Batman fought Darkseid, Justice League Unlimited. That's still a part of Justice League animated series. That episode was so crazy because Darkseid was like, he like, no one's ever survived my Omega beam. I like, dang, Batman put that on his bucket list. He dodging in and stuff. I'm like, dang, you know what I'm saying? But I like what they did with the show. We learned about the core members. I think one thing I really liked about the show, we saw more of John. John is another Green Lantern. He's the Black Green Lantern. If you don't know, you know now. And I think I like John. I never really. I'm not gonna say I hated Hal because I'm not gonna say I hated Hal's character. I think I just never really got into Hal. Hal was too like comical for me. I mean, when I think of comical, I think of Flash. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, eh, I ain't really liking Hal. So when they decided to introduce John into the Justice League in that show, I was like, yo, this is my favorite Green Lantern, yo. And like even without the ring, my man's bad. You know what I'm saying? So he trouble. When he don't even have a ring, boy, he a bad Green Lantern. And he was from Detroit. Man, but yes, I like the show. I think my favorite episode of Justice League. There are a couple different episodes, to be honest with you. The one when Batman stayed when Ace died. I was like, dang, and I felt bad because Cadmus had him on a mission. He told her she was a part of the Royal Flush Gang, and what happened was her powers became unstable. Whatever she thought, it manifested into reality. If she saw people a certain way, they became the people that was in her mind, or just things around the whole environment would change. And Batman goes in and Cadmus like, yeah, I need you to kill her. Da, da. Batman, I say that's one thing I love about Batman. Batman empathized with her. He stayed there until she eventually died. He didn't do what Cadmus told him to do, and then he actually had the dog named after her too in Batman Beyond. If y'all remember Ace, that's the dog, remember? So that's probably in remembrance of her from the Royal Flush Gang. Justice League, had a nice perfect time. Yes, the show was really good. Even the movies they had for Justice League were really good. As a matter of fact, with Batman, they had two good movies. I forgot to mention Mask of Phantasm. That's by far my favorite Batman film. I think because we saw someone that was very similar to Batman, Andy. And then the one was Mr. Freeze. I think it's called Sub-Zero. That was a really good film too. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of sad. Like when I seen that film again, I'm like, dang, he did that all for Nora, and she left him. You know what I'm saying? Like, my man did all these crimes to get you back, from whatever. She has some type of disease. And I'm like, bruh. And, you felt bad for Mr. Freeze because he did all that for Nora, man. And still, got his heart broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was already brokenhearted that she was in the condition she was in. But then in the movie, like at the end, he helped her and still. Dang, terrible, ain't it? But I think with Justice League, there were many good things within the Justice League series. I love the episode when Superman fought Mongol. That was a really good episode. Even the episode where Intricate, one of Batman's friends. I love the scene where he told Flash, "Miracle Morrowind." She's got you in her grips. And like, my man's like so medieval, you know what I'm saying? And he's crazy, he's got all these different powers. He's shooting fireballs, with his hands and stuff. But I think Justice League, there were funny episodes, there were action episodes. I remember the one episode where we saw the other Justice League where they had Catman. It was like the other Earth, you know what I'm saying? I think the show was really good, man. I think Les Luthor played a really good main villain in that show. Throughout even each season, we saw like how Les was. We seen a version of Les where he actually killed Superman. There was a universe where Les did kill Superman. On top of that, we had interesting Justice League members like Hawk Girl, being Thanagarian, and her relationship with John. You know what I'm saying? In that kind of situation where she kind of betrayed John's trust and he was brokenhearted. We learned about Martian Manhunter in the show because I was not really familiar with his character. The Flash, we learned about his limitations. I think the episode when Flash almost killed himself, that was a crazy episode, y'all. Like when he started to like ripple the effects of time and he almost died, I was like, ugh, you know what I'm saying? We saw Supergirl, Doomsday in the actual series, Power Woman, Supergirl's clone. Cadmus was also another main villain. We saw Black Canary. We saw Green Arrow in Unlimited. So some of these people we saw in Unlimited, some people we saw in regular Justice League. But I think the season finale was really dope, man. And I didn't really pay attention to it, but it was connected to Batman Beyond, which is another one that I'm gonna mention pretty soon. But I think the show, the music was really good for the show. The voice acting was really good. Mark Hamill did return. The characters, we saw some of Batman's villains in Justice League, like we saw Clayface. We saw a few other villains. You know what I'm saying? We saw some of the Flash villains from his rogue gallery of villains. And Sinestro from Green Lantern's gallery of villains. So we saw a multitude of certain villains. In the actual series, I thought that was a terrific thing to see that. And for it to, like, when Justice League was just, the main members. But then when Unlimited came out, it was like, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many different members. They're going on different missions. Certain members going here, some members going there. And it was that type of thing. But it really worked. The storytelling was really good. I think the show premise was really good. Season 1 was different from season 2. Season 2 was a part 1, part 2. Same thing with season 1. There were very comedic moments with Kevin Conroy that played Batman. And I just think the show, I can go back and watch. It's just like the Batman animated series. I can go back and watch that and I still can enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you'll watch a show, you cannot literally go back and watch. You're just like, did I really want to go back and watch this? So that is my number 2 on the list. Yes, sir. You already know. So that's number 2. Number 3. Ooh. Number 3, I'm going to go with Static Shock. Okay. So let me tell you why I said Static Shock. Because at the time, we had superhero shows, right? And this is another DC show. I know y'all, I'm surprised no one has said anything about it. But I think with Static Shock, it was one of those shows that they really took a risk. DC did, you know what I'm saying? It's a milestone comics association with DC, and it's about Virgil Hawkins, also known as Static Shock. I think what I really liked about the show, it talked about real life issues. Don't get me wrong, the Batman animated series did too sometimes when it came to certain things. But Static, they remember that episode where one of his classmates shot Richie, also known as Gear. But it talks about the problems with the youth and also the black community, and I think that's what really was like. It was a very I'm not gonna say touching, but one of those shows that people could relate to. That's of my skin color and other people's skin color as well. And you know what I'm saying? Because at the time we had other superheroes. Don't get me wrong, we had John, but John didn't have his own show from Green Lantern. Now I would have loved to see a standalone Green Lantern series with John. What's going on, bro? And like I said, yeah, that episode was crazy. And I think with Static Shock, I really liked the show. It kind of sucked that it didn't last as I thought it would. You know, some shows um last for a decent amount of time, but I think Static Shock came in at a time where anime started to kind of dominate and stuff like that. But the show was a really good show. I like the voice actors. It talked about drugs, abuse, family issues, African heritage. Even had the hero a Nazi that was the spider. And you know him going against the African mythology gods and all that stuff. But Status Shock was a really well thought of show. The animation was really good. I just wish it could have did one more season. I think it only lasted like 4 seasons. And you know, and I love the pop references. I love the one where he goes back in time and meets Batman Beyond and uses a Beyonce reference in the episode where he meets Black Lightning. I thought that was really neat. And you know, back then, you know, not having that many black superhero shows, that was the one that I remember just Saturday morning, WB, I'm turning on TV. I'm like, yep, about to watch me some Static Shock. You know what I'm saying? Just getting ready. Sometimes I have me some water or some juice, and I'll be ready to watch me some Static Shock, y'all. You know, like I said, WB, boy, that was the era, man. In the 90s, boy, man, that like I said, I'm taking it back. And I think that's what I really liked about Static Shock. Like I said, dealt with urban community issues. Like I said, even dealt with poverty, drug abuse, all these different things. And I'm like, man, this is a kid's show. And I was shocked that they showed the episode where Richie got shot with a gun. Because, you know, back then in the 90s, a lot of people don't know you could have guns in cartoons, but they weren't supposed to be getting shot, like literally. You know, that's why it was bouncing off of Batman. When you saw him in the Batman anime series, it was just bouncing off of him. It wasn't, pew, you know what I'm saying? He getting shot, like, oh, you know. But I think, you know, maybe at that time it had kind of died down some, I'm assuming. And maybe DC was like, you know what, we can include it, but not make it too graphic. Because, like I said, we just see Richie, Virgil's friend, is shot, yeah, early 2000s, late 90s, yep. And that's probably what it was. Because at a certain time, that's why the Batman animated series, you didn't see him get shot. It would just bounce off him. He'd run and just bounce off his suit and stuff. So you're thinking like his suit, like bulletproof, but it's not bulletproof. It's just that that was the guidelines that they had to abide by if they wanted this show to stay on air. So yes, maybe Static Shock may have had more leniency now because that show came out in the late 90s, like you said. So yes, Static Shock was definitely my number three. Number three, yes, that show, like I said, I wish maybe hopefully in the future Milestone works out something with DC where we get like a Blu-ray. I mean, Batman anime series got a Blu-ray. Why can't we get a Static Shock Blu-ray with the visuals? I mean, I think it would be great. I think I've heard that the DVDs for Static Shock are not really that great. It's not, the quality is terrible. It's trash, and I'm just like, DC, can we at least get it on Blu-ray where it's the visuals have gotten better and it's not looking crappy on a physical disc copy? You know, because I would love to own that personally. Now, next on the list is Batman Beyond. Oh my God, y'all know I had to talk about Batman Beyond. So with Batman Beyond, I liked it because it was a futuristic type of thing. It wasn't like current Bruce Wayne, you know what I'm saying, with the regular gadgets and stuff. Batman suit can turn invisible. You know what I'm saying? He can hack into stuff with his thumb. You know what I'm saying? I think the story was really good for Batman Beyond. It was like it had a futuristic edge to it, dealing with technology. If a lot of people paid attention, credit cards, you know what they call them in Batman Beyond? Creds. So Batman Beyond kind of started the trend if you really think about it. Yeah. The credit cards. You know, remember the episode where they're like, yeah, I gotta put my creds in. That's another thing. That's credit cards, if you really think about it, that we use now with the chipping in and everything. So Batman Beyond, it was ahead of its time if you really think about it. You know what I'm saying? So Batman Beyond, I think I liked the story a little bit better. For a minute, I was a little worried. I was like, okay, we got Batman, all right. But now y'all talking about we got some futuristic Batman and this new Batmobile that flies around Gotham City, and you know what I'm saying? Now, one thing I did like about the show, personally, Terry had his own, yes, credits. That's what I'm talking about. So you know, that's what we call it, credit card or credit. You know what I'm saying? But you know, like I said, they was onto something. But I think with this show, I really like that we got Terry McGinnis' story. It was very interesting. You know what I'm saying? Because like towards the end, you started to understand, like, hold up, and you had to watch Justice League Unlimited to figure out that Terry DNA is Bruce's DNA. So this is Bruce child by Cadmus. They cloned Bruce Wayne and put his DNA into Terry's actual dad and his mother. You know, had a kid and he has Bruce genes. He kind of looks like Bruce a little bit. But I think with Batman Beyond, I liked it because Terry McGinnis had his own gallery of Batman villains for futuristic references. We had Blight. Blight was crazy, man. I think I like Blight as a villain, though. I think the reason for that is because Blight was this greedy new Wayne Enterprise. He was the head of Wayne Enterprises at the time because Bruce has stepped down. But I love that we saw what led to Bruce stop being Batman and not being in the suit anymore. He had a heart attack, you know, trying to save this girl that had been missing for a while in Gotham City. And what happens is he loses, he starts shooting people. I'm like, whoa, Batman shooting people and injuring them? I'm like, it's not the Bruce I know. So we do see that, but we understood why, because he started to have chest pain, he actually had a heart attack, and he had to find someone else to on the mantle. And we come across Terry McGinnis, which is this teenager, and we see him wanting to fulfill the role as Batman. And what I thought was interesting about Terry, even though Terry was a bit rebellious, we start to understand why he felt that his father had been framed. Someone tried to kill they killed his father, but it was because a secret had came out, and Blight right hand man was the one that killed Terry's father, but they put it on the Joker gang that killed them, and that was not the case. And I think we saw Terry over time to realize, like, this is not just something I dress up and be fun, fly around Gotham City and do crime. I need to be more serious about it and balancing not just his high school life, but his love life and his family life to be this new Batman with all the cool gadgets and even you know, and the villains were very interesting. We saw some villains that were descendants of certain villains, like we know Scarecrow's great grandson was one of the Terry's. He was a part of. He was in the Return of Joker. He was the one with the little pumpkin thing, and he's got the Scarecrow hat on with the yellow hair. Yes, he is the heir. He is a family member to Scarecrow. That is Scarecrow's great grandson. Also, we see Mr. Freeze again. I think that was really neat that we saw Mr. Freeze. And, you know, I still felt bad for Mr. Freeze. I'm like, man, every time they write Mr. Freeze's story, man, I'm just like, bro, like, y'all always got to make this man. I felt like Mr. Freeze was the most broken Batman villain. I'm sorry, y'all. I have to just say that because it seemed like every time he get his life together, something just come and tear his life apart. We saw that with Nora. Then he ended up with some new girl in the future. And then what happens? He fights Blight and he ends up killing himself. I said, Just to save Batman. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, are you kidding me? After all this time, this man was living his best life. You know what I'm saying? He had a new life, he had a new love interest and everything. And the writers had to come and just say, you know what? We gonna kill him off. I'm like, no. You know what I'm saying? I was hurt by that. You know what I'm saying? But we see that. We also see some of Batman's allies from his past. I think that was really neat. It wasn't many of them, but I think the show was really good. The visuals were really good for this time being. I love that we saw another generation of the Royal Flush Gang. Because if you guys remember, the Royal Flush Gang had been around for years. You know what I'm saying? It's a family, but each generation is different. You know what I'm saying? We saw the generation of the Justice League went against in their time being and working with the Joker. But in this scenario, we see a different take on the Royal Flush Gang. And we also see that there's a similarity with Terry. Terry has a thing for one of the Royal Flush Gang members, which is the daughter of the king and queen. And Ace in the future generation is not some telepath. She is pretty much this buff robot that's just just ready to fight and duke it out. You know what I'm saying? Then you got Jack, which is her brother, too. But we still see, like I said, villains that are familiar. We even saw Ra's al Ghul for one episode. I think that was really neat. And I felt bad for Bruce. Bruce, that episode where Bruce looks at all his love interests, had Lois Lane, Wonder Woman, all the women that he kind of had a thing for, they just didn't quite work out. And that episode shot me. So I'm like, dang, Talia's still that young, but it's that found of youth. So then you're thinking like something ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, something's not right with this. And then we see for ourselves, like, dang, like the daddy and killed Talia and was inside her body. I was it was crazy. You know what I'm saying? So yes, Batman Beyond was definitely one of those shows that I really enjoyed. You know what I'm saying? We got the chance to learn about Barbara's relationship with Bruce, and also we learned about the what is it? I can't think about the tip of my tongue, guys. There was the group of us, the League of Shadows. The League of Shadows. They had the new generation League of Shadows, and talk about creepy. You had the one chick that was trying to kill Terry, and pretty much, man, I remember the scene where he took the thing off her face because she had the little thing veil around her and stuff. And he took it off, and she kicked her. She kicked her. I said, "Dang!" I was like, and he looked like, "Ooh!" I was like, "Ooh, she must look hideous." But the League of Shadows were a little bit different. I love that the Hunter did return, and the Batman Beyond that was in the Batman animated series that Bruce fought. But his story was pretty crazy, man. He had the cybernetic thing in his back and stuff now. He was still hunting Batman in the future. And I felt bad. Terry tried to save him, and Terry wasn't really killing people. You know what I'm saying? As Batman, it was more so Bruce. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, dang. I was like, really? So we see Terry be a little bit more cautious and not trying to kill them. I mean, but like some of them, I guess some of them end up dying anyway. But we did see that. There were even an episode where Terry had to put on Nightwing's mask because the suit got took over by this technology that was a living computer of this boy's grandfather. So I think Batman Beyond, it was edgy, very interesting. It was more of a, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was the show that inspired Batman Beyond. That's what they said. I found that out recently. I was like, oh, what? I was shocked. Literally, I said to myself, I'm like, I was not expecting that. You know what I'm saying? But Batman Beyond was definitely one of my other shows. Next on the list is the Superman animated series. Um, I think the Superman animated series, it was good for what it was. I think the show personally was really good. I think it took after Batman animated series, you know what I'm saying? Because Batman animated series had been out way longer, you know what I'm saying? Because then they had the Batman Adventures that came out, which was the continuation of season 4. You know what I'm saying? And I think with the Superman animated series, We got to learn about other Superman villains that we weren't familiar with. Yes, I know Buffy is crazy, right? Yes, that yeah, I know. I was like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer influenced Batman Beyond. I'm like, that's crazy. I was just shocked too. I was like, what? I found this out this year, y'all. I kid you not. I was just like, this can't be real. But that was true. But also, like I said, yes, Buffy the Vampire Slayer did. But Superman animated series, we learned it was really good. I like in the Superman animated series we saw episodes where Superman came across Batman, and stuff like that. But I also learned a little bit more about Superman. I think with the series, we learned about his planet. We learned about Supergirl, Darkseid, grandmother, and stuff like that, the different Superman villains. um, Even the one that was Mr. Flitz, too. And I think with the Superman animated series, it kind of was more of like Superman figuring out things, doing his own thing. Lex was still the main baddie, but I think the one Clark Kent, the one and only, right? And the thing is with the Superman animated series, they had interesting villains. The stories weren't as polished as the Batman animated series, don't get me wrong, but it was still a good show. I have that show and I can still watch it. And I think with the show, I like Toyman's story. Toyman is kind of this kid. His dad was killed by this mobster named Bruno. And Bruno pretty much was the reason his father was dead. They killed his father off, and all he wanted was revenge on Bruno. And could you understand the man, the boy? Yeah, he lost his father. His mother was already dead, and it's like, well, he doesn't have family. You're the reason his father died. I'm not for sure if the mother was killed or not. I might have to look into that information. But it was like, well, he doesn't have anyone. And he goes around. He's kind of like this little. He has this like sinisterness with him. He has these different toy gadgets. Throws a ball at you. He's riding a duck. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, like Toyman was a pretty creepy Superman villain, if you ask me. I was just like, not Toyman. But Bruno had it coming, man. He finally got that cold dish served to him, when he betrayed Darkseid and Darkseid killed him. That was a very interesting episode too. I mean, I knew it was coming though, you know what I'm saying? Darkseid sent his finest man to bring back Superman and he couldn't even get the job done. Like you the mobster of Metropolis, and like what are you doing? And you still couldn't get the job done. And he had the top people from Apocalypse come to this actual city, and you still can get the job done. And he was pissed about it. And he just killed them off. I was like, oh. But Superman had very interesting villains. Rudy, which is Parasite. Rudy, he's able to absorb Superman's powers. Metallo. We have Bizarro, Livewire. We also had there's another villain, I can't think of it off the top of my head. We had all these different Calabac, Darkseid's son. And we also saw his other son, his actual son, Orion. And I think the Superman animated series it lasted for 3 seasons. You know what I'm saying? For the time being, I thought it was really neat. The show had very interesting episodes dealing with Brainiac, sometimes Metallo, sometimes Parasite, sometimes Toyman, and we see all these different scenarios. They even have an episode where Toyman is obsessed with Lois Lane and he kidnaps her. He also kidnaps her in Status Shock, and also Virgil. I want to say Virgil's love interest. Then it's not the first one, but the second one. And I was just like, boy, Toyman he loved going after women. Like, Bruno's dead. What is he gonna do now? He's looking for a woman. But I liked what they did with it. The show was dark towards the end, the Superman animated series. Remember when Darkseid killed the one guy that was a buddy of Superman? So I'm like, oh my god! Like when he killed him, I'm like, oh no! And you could see the look on Superman's face, like he was like, "You just killed him." He was furious, yo. And also, I love that we saw Supergirl in this series. in a few episodes, not many episodes. But the show was really good for what it was. Loomis, Loomis, that's the name of the other Superman villain that where he can make all those different illusions and stuff of himself. And he was interesting villain. I will say that he was. He also had a thing for Lois Lane. Same thing with Les Luthor, her S-Bay in the show. She confessed to Clark like, "Oh yeah, we dated briefly." And I'm like it was nothing. And I love that their dynamic kind of worked out in the show, even with Jimmy. But the show's really good. We even saw the alternate universe where Superman in another universe where it was more like a dystopia where there was no Lois Lane was dead. Certain people were dead in that timeline. I thought that was neat. We even had an episode where Superman goes faces off the Flash. He deals with Green Lantern. So you know what I'm saying it was definitely a build up. This came before, this came after Justice League, and I was like, yes, I wanted to see them all come together and stuff like that. So yes, the show was definitely something to remember, So I was like, can't go wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Superman anime series, it was nice for the time when it came out and everything. I really enjoyed it. Next on the list, I gotta talk to y'all about this, man. Y'all know I had it. I had to take it there, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit later on. I was in high school when this came out. But my next one on the list is definitely gonna be Avatar: The Last Airbender. And let me just say why this show is definitely my number six. It's because when I saw the show, I was like interested in it off rip. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you'll watch a TV show and you're not really interested in it. But when I saw Avatar: The Last Airbender, I was like, this show is something special. You know what I'm saying? Like Nick makes good shows. Don't get me wrong. I like Hey Arnold, but Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think the show just has something that was a little bit more edgier than Hey Arnold. Don't get me wrong, I like Hey Arnold for what it was. I'm not comparing it, so I'm not saying they're in the same lane. I'm just saying for their differences, I felt like I was more connected to Avatar in a sense. Like, yes, you can relate to Hey Arnold. People like that in your neighborhood, of course. But with Avatar: Last Airbender, I just like the story. I think the story what really drew me in. You have this kid that all these other people that were like his family are gone. You know what I'm saying? And now he has to find people to be his family. On top of that, we have all these dope, like, airbending, firebending, waterbending, earthbending. And I was like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? When I seen the show, I was literally just like, yo, this is dope, Avatar, yes, Avatar's a class as hell. Yes, yes, yes. The show, I like the character development. We learned about each character. Aang had trust issues. Um, Hey Arnold was more simple. Avatar was more development interesting. Yes, that's why I say I'm not knocking Hey Arnold. I don't want nobody when they're, oh, you're knocking it. No, it's not that. I just think, yeah, you're right. I agree with you on that totally. And I think with the show, with Avatar: Last Airbender, we learned about racism, equality, and everything. Now here, this is what I will say, because I'm gonna include Legend of Korra too. Okay, that's gonna be my top last two right there. But with Avatar: Last Airbender, it was more so. It wasn't the villains, but just the themes with it more so. Like we understood that Zuko was a banished prince. He disobeyed his father. He was banished from the Fire Nation, which was his kingdom that he lived in, or I guess, yeah, kingdom. And now he's exiled, but he's with his uncle Iroh. And Uncle Iroh's like the wise uncle. And I think that's what I liked about his character. He loved Zuko, but he knew that Zuko had his issues with this whole, being good and bad, this duality thing going on. But he still was very supportive of Zuko despite his brother banishing his own nephew. And I love that aspect of it. But also we learned about Katara and her issues and stuff. Her not being able to trust Aang first and everything, and also catching feelings for him. We learned about how the nations operated, each nation. Ba Sensei was pretty dirty. You know what I'm saying? Kids are getting kidnapped off the streets of Ba Sensei. in the Earth Kingdom ain't quite as, they have this clean portrayal of it, but it's like the Dali or like the FBI of that like particular place, and I'm just like, oh my god, like they're just, we're not FBI. I should just say like people just mugging kids and just, kidnapping them and brainwashing them. And I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, but also we learned that Aang still had a friend around, Boomy. Boomy the Earthbender. Boomy was crazy. Originally, when I saw Avatar: The Last Airbender, I thought Boomy was going to teach him how to earthbend. Oh, it would have been great to have his best friend Boomy teach him, but I was okay with it. When I found out that Toph was going to be the person to teach him earthbending, I was like, you know what? I like this character. You know what I'm saying? We even learned about Toph being royalty, being a part of a royal earthbending family, and she didn't quite fit in with her family. And people sometimes can go through that. They don't necessarily they love their family. They don't quite agree with everything they do. But we saw her not being, likable because she was too tomboyish. But I liked her character. I liked the character dynamics between her and Katara. We see their differences and how they squashed it out. They were beefed out for a bit. You know what I'm saying? But also we see the different villains in there. Yeah, Airbender, Waterbender, yeah, Firebender. The different villains. You had Combustion Man that was this like firebender that he had like this third eye and shot like beams out that blew fire. I was like, oh my god, and just a boom, just everything into the boom. You're just like, wow. But I think the overall message with this show was it was ahead of its time. I was surprised Nick picked up this show because it has some really dark themes. Child abuse, Zuko father, remember that burn mark? That was child abuse, abandonment. It talked about that, being abandoned by someone. It also talked about racism, which is a problem. Also, it talked about poverty. The show touched on a lot of things that are going on, even though it looked like it was something that was back in ancient times type of thing. But it was more so like on a thing where it's like, okay, these themes are relatable. You had the gurus. I think Guru Lama. That was a very interesting episode. That taught you how to do meditation. You know what I'm saying? I was surprised. That's why I was surprised that Nick was able to get that show, even that episode on there. What's up, bro? I seen your new video. Thank you so much, bro. I do appreciate it, man. Yeah, man. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in. Excuse me, but yeah, the show touched on a lot of that stuff that you know at the time TV networks weren't too keen on certain things, and I think Avatar: The Last Airbender was a really good show. Positive messages, a lot of symbolism in it. Overall, we see Aang face his fears. His biggest fear was learning how to firebend and also to love someone. He was scared that he was going to lose Katara when he became the Avatar and got into the Avatar state. We see him lose against Zuko's sister, Azula, which is a little bit more ruthless than Zuko. Zuko at least has some empathy, but Azula just was a power hungry princess, and also what is that? She was an abuser and she was a manipulator. You know what I'm saying? And a bit of a narcissist towards her friends. She treated her friends pretty harsh. That Ty Lee, Mai, and it's like, dang, you treating your friends like that? And even how she, kind of approached men, she was very violent and aggressive, and that was just a part of her nature because she was more like the father, and Zuko was more like his actual mother. I love that show, man. Yes, bro. Yes, I love that show too, bro. I own the show. You know what I'm saying? Like when I seen it, I'm like, I gotta get this. But now I'm gonna talk about the sequel to the show. I know a lot of people didn't really care for the sequel, but Legend of Korra. I think personally, between the two, these are my top six, right? This is my number six, included with Last Airbender. But the thing is, I felt like with Legend of Korra, they had better villains. I think that was something that really worked. Don't get me wrong. I like that Aang had Fire Lord Ozai as the main villain, you know what I'm saying, towards the end, but Zuko was the villain towards the first two seasons, and his sister was the other villain. But I felt like the villains in season two, Legend of Korra, they all symbolize something. A mind symbolized equality for the poor. Well, he portrayed that for the poor and the wealthy to come together. But he was a pretty much of a narcissist and a manipulator. He wasn't quite that wasn't quite his agenda, and his brother knew how he really was, and that was very interesting. But I think my favorite villains from Legend of Korra would have to be Zaire. And you can understand Zaire's frustration with how society is to some extent. It was like, you know what? I can't really be mad at him because that's how he really feels about it. You know what I'm saying? Zaire was probably I've never seen a show where they had an anarchist villain. You know what I'm saying? He was a straight anarchist. He didn't believe in governments. He didn't believe in royalty taking over communities or nations. And I was like, it's kind of different, and I think that was something that I really liked about him. But I love that he was very interesting. His little boy is the funniest, but I love him. Yes, he was very interesting, Zaire. And him being a part of the what they call it wasn't the White Lotus anymore. Because the White Lotus had disbanded, the Red Lotus. And I think it was very interesting that we learned about Zaire, but also Zaire having ties with Korra's Uncle Unalak. And Uncle Unalak was dirty too, boy. I don't know who was dirtier, was it Zaire or Uncle Unalak? And I think it was more so Zaire, because Zaire put the fear in Korra. Remember in season 4, he's all locked up and she's still scared. I'm like, he can't do nothing. He locked up. And you can tell that Korra's still traumatized from it. And you can see that was an issue with Korra. Korra was a prodigy Airbender, not Airbender, excuse me, water Avatar. She had learned all the elements, you know what I'm saying? She just needed to learn a little bit more about earthbending, but we could tell that she still had a fear in Zaire. But also we saw the issues with Republic City, where it's like this new city that's ran by mayors and politicians and senate and all that stuff. So it was like an up to date, you know what I'm saying? And there's no Aang. She can access Aang, and her dealing with Aang's relatives, Tub's daughters, and and I think it was a really neat show. It was like more modern, and just in a sense, like in the early 1900s or 1960s type of thing. But it was interesting that her pet, Appa was Aang's flying air bison. She had the polar bear doll that she rode, but also her friends, Mako, which is a firebender, also her love interest, and then his brother, Bolin. And I think this show, I like the balance between them. You know what I'm saying? Bolin's kind of laid back, comical effort. Mako's a little bit more serious. He's like a detective firebender, which was really neat. Bolin's like this earthbending sports, celebrity. And Korra's just this prodigy avatar, bender, you know what I'm saying? But I like throughout this show, we saw each villain had their own ideologies, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, Unalak wanted to be the dark avatar. That was his only purpose. He wanted to be the avatar, but he didn't want to be the pure avatar like Brava and Bato. Bato was the darkness of Brava. You know what I'm saying? It shows you yin and yang, good and bad. But the thing was, that's what her uncle mission was he was always wanted to kidnap her, and he confronted her like, yeah, originally I was supposed to kidnap you, but it didn't go as planned. You know what I'm saying? Because the other Red Lotus members didn't follow through. And I think with the uncle, he wanted to start a new world, but he wanted it to be more of in a darker place compared to a more of a pure place. Also we see another villain, like I said, Zaire, him and his friends, them all being against, certain things, and Zaire killing off the Earth Queen because he's like, I don't believe in this whole sovereignty thing, and I just want to be done with this. You know what I'm saying? I think Zaire, I liked about him, he got straight to the business. I'm sorry. I like villains that can get to the business. I'm like, my man's got he assembled a team. His team got out, he got out. And I was just like, bruh. And then it was like when he was doing stuff, he was like usually coming together with his team. And Korra had a hard time dealing with that because his team was well coordinated. They hadn't been together in years, but they still knew how to work together, despite the differences that they had. Because the waterbender chick that didn't have no arms, and you know what I'm saying, had no arms and hands, she didn't stand Zaire's girlfriend. That was the firebender, the combustion bender that had the boom, the beam coming out her head, just like my man's from the other season. But I think, like I said, the show is really good. Like I said, it's a kids show. It has some adult themes in there. I know the last episode was a little crazy when we see Asami and Korra kiss. I'm like, what? I was thinking she was gonna get back with Mako, y'all. I was hurt. I was hurt. I was like, you're not back with Mako? What happened? I'm trying to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? My man's had feelings for her. I love that we see Aang's kids and you know what I'm saying, and his grandkids. It was very interesting, and you know, Katara's daughter that's similar to her, and then Boomy, which is Aang's other son that awakened his airbending powers later on, and then you had the one that was training Korra. I think the show was really neat for what it was. There were things that I think like I said, the villains. I know even with the last villain was a bit of a dictator. That was the Earthbender, and stuff like that from the Earth Kingdom. You know, she was going and scavenging around, taking resources from the less fortunate Earthbending communities, and just keeping it for herself. That was very interesting. Like I said, we also see Zaire, Uncle Unalaq, and then we see, Amon. And each, like I said, each villain stood for something. Not saying that in season one that the villains didn't, but they had more solid core values. I remember the scene when Zaire killed my man's in spirit world. My man's, he went in the spirit world, he knocked him off the thing. Oh, I'm like, dang. I was like, Zaire, like, I'm gonna get the job done. Skip this, man. I'm gonna kill you in the spirit world. You can't come back now. I was like, whoa. But I think this is my top 6 right here, man. I just think the show, like I said, it's definitely something I really enjoyed. And like I said, it's something I can go back and watch, man. Like I said, we watch TV shows sometimes and we cannot go back and watch them because it just don't give us that same feeling when we watch it again. But these are my top 6 cartoons, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for rocking with me. And tomorrow, we already got another one, man. You already know what it is, man. So stay tuned tomorrow. What are my favorite anime genres is coming tomorrow. So if you're into anime, please come by, check it out. Let me know what you think of it because, look, Shelly, I'm gonna explain why I like certain genres more than others, and even some of the new genres that I'm starting to enjoy. So until next time, guys, have a great Saturday, and I'm out. Take care.